when you look at the data, what's going on in the world, women can't deny that them being the initiators of filing for divorce at a high rate, estimated 80%, is just very clear in modern society that, women don't like marriage. They don't like marriage. And, honestly, I think most women have good intentions in getting into marriage. And I just think more and more women, once they get into it, they realize, this is not really what I want, for my life in this current era. Now, some women will argue and say, well, men, a lot of men don't want to get married. But I think it's the reason because, most men don't see, women as suitable wives. And then the women that do decide to get in a marriage, they decide that they don't want to be, quote unquote, a wife. So I don't think there's nothing that could be done to reverse the ideology. I think that we're trending in a particular direction. Now, why was marriage, important in the past? A lot of it had to do with religion and, and it was just, that's just what people were doing. It was just cultural. So now we're in a post-religion society right now. We're in a post-religious society, and we're not trending back to a religious society, in Western cultures, aka the Matrix. So by us being in a post-religion society, there's no moral incentive to be married, at least from a woman's standpoint. From men that want to have children and build legacy, marriage was the institution to do that. Most men, especially with a patriarch mindset, looks at having children in a two-parent environment. So the reason why I titled this stream Joint Custody Society is because this is what I'm foreseeing to be the norm. I just did a stream earlier about, women want men to pay for sex. Now it's becoming normalized. I didn't grow up with girlfriends asking for money. So now we in the West, they're normalizing, you know, children being brought in the world not under matrimony or not in wedlock. It's being normalized. So most women and men do agree that, children should have both parents. Most women and men agree on that. What what we're differing is, how does that look like? And women have figured out to say, hey, we can have a child together, both parents can be involved, and the courts have created or had already created joint custody. Now, I'm not going to get into differences between joint physical custody and joint custody as it pertains to decision making, but in a nutshell, joint custody. Shout out to Buck Travels. He said relationships are P for P, girlfriend experience nowadays. Yeah, That's what it is, man. Unfortunately. So, I want you guys to really, really think about how societies are trending. I mean, even internationally, obviously, as the West, has this um, cultural influences, you have to think about it. Think about it from a male and female perspective. What is what is the benefit of marriage if it's not religion? Just take religion out. If you're not religious, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Catholic, or whatever, if you're not religious, and it doesn't, and you can live life without following any religion doctrine, what is the reason to get married? Now, there are reasons to get married. Lead attorney broke this down before, and the way he broke it down was, is reason to get married if it has some benefit. Some people have to get married. Some people think marriage is good to save on taxes. Some people may get married to help one person get citizenship. You know, some people might get married, um, for health insurance reasons. Like, so there are reasons outside of love to get married. You know, I mean, it could benefit one or more people. But as it pertains to, let's say, love, having children, and then you take away religion, is really no moral obligation to feel like you have to get married. I mean, what is it? Once you take out religion, what is the reason? What is the moral reason to get married? Because if the moral reason is, and I'm talking about female logic, if the moral reason is uh for men to say marriage should be where, I want to have kids in wedlock, women will say, well, you don't have to be married to have children because we can just share custody and raise the children together. DBG7 says there is no point for a man to be in a marriage. I don't know what what do the man benefit. A man can do most of his own and P for plea. Yeah, I mean, it's a sad reality. It's a sad reality. You know, um, I'm still holding on to, my, religious faith. And I do still believe in marriage, but I just believe that it's dwindling. It's dwindling. You know. Um so, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that joint custody, raising kids, do you think that is, you know, do you think that is something that is an adequate substitute for a two parent household? You know, is the child um getting what it needs from its mother and father in separate homes? If the same thing can be accomplished, I don't know. I don't know what the data says about it. I don't know what the data says about it. Um, when I look at two-parent households, I look at, especially if the father is, a more authoritarian, strict father. He's gonna impose his values on the child, and then the wife, whether it's a daughter or a son, they're gonna view their father as, being the alpha, and the mother as being submissive in a traditional setting. In a non-traditional setting, they may see, the father as a, let's say this partnership idea, and typically, the man focuses on a boy and the woman focuses more on a girl, you know, to learn. learn masculine and feminine things. You know, my only question is in just joint situations is that you know if it'll create confusion on the children, because once this becomes normalized, then the children are going to view having children the same way as joint situations. So I have to think a little bit more about you know how the new family dynamic looks. If it was me growing up and I had I split my time between mother and father. you know I guess you won't know what you're missing out if you never experienced it. So if I was born in that situation, obviously it's gonna seem normal if I'm born in that situation. But if I'm not born in that situation, I'm gonna prefer um seeing both my parents together if I'm born in that situation. Because both parents are parents that you love, and you love them equally, and it brings some type of joy just waking up or coming home to mommy and daddy. But if you're not born in that situation, I guess you may not you know what it feels like to have both parents in the household. So those are just kind of my thoughts, man. The way I see society trending. Please comment. I would like to know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this rant. Peace out.